Yes.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Up in Your Business with Kerry McCoy, a production of flagandbanner.com. Through storytelling and conversational interviews, this weekly radio show offers listeners first-hand insight in starting and running a business, the ups and downs of risk-taking, and the commonalities of successful people. Connect with Kerry through her candid, often funny, and informative weekly blog, where you'll read and comment on life as wife, mother, daughter, and entrepreneur. And now it's time for Kerry McCoy to get all up in your business.
Show Up in Your Business with Kerry McCoy began as a platform for me, a small business owner and a guest, to pay forward our experiential knowledge in a conversational way. Originally, I thought it would appeal to entrepreneurs and wannabe entrepreneurs, but it seems to have had a much wider audience because, after all, who isn't inspired by everyday people's American-made stories? Nobody. Everybody's inspired. Another discovery I find interesting is that many of my guests have a spiritual bend. I think this belief in a higher power has been given them the ability to feel like they can take risks. That's my take on it. And now this next discovery really caught me by surprise. Almost all my guests have the heart of a teacher, which is to say they're good at explaining, communicating, and lifting others up. And last, that business in of itself is creative, more so than I ever thought. Every week on this show, I learn something new and creative. Our guest today on the show is Mr. Jim Dailey. If you were to read his resume, you might think he was a millennial because of his service work and citizenship. But Mr. Dailey is a baby boomer and past mayor of Little Rock, Arkansas, and current tourism director for the state of Arkansas. Talk about a communicator. Today we're going to talk about the natural state and all there is to do here. We're going to get his take on our current and future states of affairs. And last, I want to hear some stories, some Arkansas folklore. I bet he's got some. If you're just listening for the first time, you may be asking yourself, what's this lady's story and why should I listen? Well, Jesse is here to tell you.
Over 40 years ago, with only $400, Kerry McCoy founded Arkansas Flag and Banner. During the last 4 decades, the business has grown and changed dramatically, from door-to-door sales to telemarketing to mail order and catalog sales, and now Flag and Banner relies heavily on the internet, including its newest feature, live chatting. With time and experience, Kerry's business and leadership knowledge grew. As early as 2004, she began sharing this knowledge on her weekly blog. Today, she's used her learned skills to found the nonprofit Friends of Dreamland Ballroom, as well as the in-house publication Brave Magazine, and now this very production. Each week on this show, you'll hear candid conversations between her and her guest about real-world experiences on a variety of businesses and topics that we hope you'll find interesting. If you would like to ask Kerry a question or share your story, send an email to questions@upyourbusiness.org. That's questions@upyourbusiness.org, or post a comment on flagandbanner.com's Facebook page.
Thank you, Jesse. This is our 98th show. Can you believe that, Jesse? I mean, really.
It's mind-boggling, huh?
It is, and I think you've been here for at least half of them, maybe more.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well over 9 months of shows, I know for sure.
And 100 shows, if there's 52 weeks in a year, 100 shows is 2 years. We're almost at in September, it'll be the 2-year mark. And, you know, I'd like to do something really fun and exciting for the 100th show, like some sort of celebration or something special, but I am not creative. If anybody out there has got any ideas, help us. If you have a suggestion, write a comment on flagandbanner.com's Facebook page, and if we use your suggestion, I will send you a gift from flagandbanner.com. I'm not sure what it'll be, but it'll probably be some kind of flag or something patriotic. It'll probably be a home kit, like a flagpole and a flag for your home. So if you've got a great idea of what we should do on our 100th show, post it on Facebook and let me know. I would love some suggestions. Many of you may remember my guest today as the mayor of Little Rock from 1993 to 2006, but I remember him as the son of Mr. Dailey, owner of Dailey Office Supplies in downtown Little Rock and what is now known as the Rivermark area. Dailey Office Supplies was the place to shop for your business needs. When I met Mr. Dailey, he was an older, genteel man who couldn't have been nicer to this young, naive whippersnapper just starting her business with little to no money. But Mr. Dailey treated me with dignity and respect, and once he bought me a Coke out of the vending machine to drink while I shopped. These caring qualities seem to have been passed down into the next generation. I see many of these traits in his son and my guest today, Mr. Jim Dailey, past mayor of Little Rock, Arkansas, and current tourism director for the state of Arkansas. Just listen to my guest's resume and bio. He was born in Batesville, schooled in Fayetteville. He served for more than 20 years as an elected official. 14 of them were as mayor of Little Rock, Arkansas. Jim worked to expand the Statehouse Convention Center, build Verizon Arena, create the River Rail and Big Dam Bridge projects. He has been president of the National Office Products Association and the Arkansas Municipal League. He has also been chairman for the Advisory Committee of the National League of Cities, the FCC Intergovernmental Advisory Committee, Little Rock's Airport Commission, and the Arkansas State Parks, Recreation, and Travel Commission. It is a pleasure to welcome to the table the current tourism director for the state of Arkansas, Mr. Jim Dailey.
Wow, Kerry.
You sound good.
It's great to be here, and it's especially great to be with you. Thank you. Thank you for remembering my dad.
You're welcome.
He was certainly one of, when you think about entrepreneurs and people that worked hard and were committed to their community at the same time, he was an example that I've tried to emulate, but I don't know that I've ever quite caught up with him. He was awesome.
He was awesome.
He really was.
So did he start that business, or was
he
it?
He did.
Okay.
Actually, he grew up in Little Rock. Actually, I was born in Little Rock, not Batesville, even though I just love Batesville and was up there just last week for a
Did you just grow
tourism.
up in Batesville?
No, really not. I'm not
That
sure
was
where
on your
that
bio
came from,
that you
but,
sent me, I thought.
Well, somebody had slipped that one in there.
Let's talk to your secretary.
We're going to have to. but I love Batesville. In fact, Mark Martin up there, the race car driver, he is partnering with us now on some work with the state and getting our message out to the world, because people love racing. They love the NASCAR circuit, his history. He's got a museum there in Batesville now that is fascinating to see. And you got me sidetracked here, but
that's good.
But quite frankly, he was he called our office and said, "Hey, I want to do something. I'm back in Arkansas. I'm living here. I've got my Ford dealership here, and I have a museum." So I went and visited him, and he took me on the tour of the museum. And there's actually, what's so fascinating is that his parents had to drive him to the racetrack when he first started doing dirt track driving there in Batesville, because he was not old enough to drive a car yet.
Wow.
So his whole history is there. I mean, you can go through his journal where he won $50 here, the clutch went out here, or you name it. I mean, what a history and what a hero. And he's giving back to Arkansas, which is beautiful. So
he contacted you?
He did, yeah. And so just like my dad, he was that kind of person that cares about our state, always was giving back. And Mark Martin, is giving back just like my dad did for so many years.
Is there a freeway that goes to Batesville, or do you have to take a highway?
Well, there's not a freeway, although when you get off at Bald Knob, you go like through Jacksonville and on up like through Searcy, and then get off at Bald Knob. So you're on 4-lane road most of the way. And so it's maybe an hour and a half to get there at the most, hour and a quarter, something like that. Yeah. Beautiful country, right on the White River. And the mayor up there, Mayor Elmendorf, he is doing just a wonderful job of promoting that city. They have just redone the old Melba Theater in downtown Batesville. He'll love it that I'm putting this plug on your show, because what they've done, they've got an incredible aquatics and community center there that the community came together around a limited time tax. And I'd love to have it in Little Rock. It's the finest I've seen in the state. But the Melba is an old 1930s theater that a couple of people there decided they wanted to refurbish it and reopen it. Community came together. People from the college there helped reupholster chairs, refinish the armrests on chairs, and it is beautiful now. It seats about 400, and they're doing second-run movies there in this place, and right in their little downtown with a couple of good restaurants there. So
it's a theater, like a movie theater.
Yeah, it is. I mean, they're running
the old Rialtos and stuff.
Exactly, and like in Searcy, the Rialto, or the Rialto in El Dorado, or the
I missed those so bad.
Lyric in Harrison. I mean, one of the things I'm captivated by is the history of Arkansas and maybe the history trails that people can follow when they visit here. Maybe it's around civil rights, or maybe it's the Trail of Tears, or maybe it's museums, or maybe it's old theaters of the 20s and 30s. Who knows?
We've got some great history
We do.
here.
Yeah, we really
And the
do.
Delta is just full of history also.
There's so much going on over there.
Did you go to school? What did you go to school to get
I went
a
to
degree
school
in?
here in Little Rock. I went to I'm a Catholic, so I went to Holy Souls in elementary school.
But where'd you go to college? Fayetteville, right?
Fayetteville.
Or did I get
Actually,
that wrong too?
No. I started. I went to Catholic high school, and then I was going to be a dentist. That was my thought. So
Oh, wow.
So I went to New Orleans to go to school down there at a Jesuit school, Loyola. Got down there the day before classes. I called my dad and said, I don't think I really want to be a dentist.
No.
And he said, that's fine.
That's
I have
hard
a
work.
son as a dentist now. But that said, we had a great visit about that. I came back after 2 years at Loyola, came back to Fayetteville, was there for 3 years, graduated, and so my roots are deep here in Arkansas.
So does your son have a backache? I have to hear all those dentists with backache from bending over and looking into people. You're twisted funny.
Actually, I hear him talk about it, whether it's shoulders or what have you.
Yeah.
In fact, he has a physical therapist that he works with that helps him train to use the muscles that
Right.
allow him to do that kind of thing where he's on his feet, or even if he's sitting on a stool, reaching over
That's
people.
right. I have a friend who's
Yeah.
a dental hygienist, and they've got a lifespan that you
They
can
do.
do that work because you wouldn't think of it as being as
But now,
strenuous as it
talking
is.
about theaters, I want to interrupt
Okay,
you
go ahead,
because
jump
I
in.
am so proud of what you have done over here on Nice Street.
Dreamland.
That is just unbelievable, and something you don't know as well.
What?
When I split off from my dad to do more of the commercial type of office furniture and office design back in 1980s, early 80s, I ended up looking. We located our office down in Riverdale, but I ended up looking for a building. I was thinking about moving into a building. Unfortunately, I did not get your building, but I
You
was
looked at it,
looking
didn't
at
you?
your building to have it redone into kind of a design studio for office furniture.
Too expensive, wasn't it?
It was, and at the same time, I was in the midst. Somebody approached me and was interested in buying the company, and that's when I got back in politics.
You
after
worked
I
for
sold.
your dad for how long?
I was with him from, I guess probably like 1965 to maybe somewhere around the late, early 80s.
Why'd it close? Why'd you close it?
Well, I mean, after I had split off and then sold that, I had kind of
After you
lost
split off from
the original Dailey's office furniture, Dailey's office
what'd you
supply.
split off to be?
I have more contract design. We
Oh,
were a
okay.
steel case dealer dealing.
Mhm.
Now it's my company I sold. It's now Today's Office, and
Oh, right.
So-
okay.
and they took it on to be a much bigger company.
So that's more
than I was.
module kind of.
Yeah, yeah.
You put up walls and
Yeah,
stuff.
and my dad was more the retailer type. I mean,
right.
which he loved, and he started the first of the open houses during Christmas holidays, and he would always buy all the gifts and accessories and all of that. So
You mean open houses for businesses? They
Yeah.
didn't do that before?
Well, that blue laws in Arkansas, for one thing, back in those early days, you couldn't sell anything on Sunday. So my dad's creativity said, I've got an answer to that. We're going to have an open house on the first Sunday in November or whenever it is. We'll bring out all of our new stuff. We'll let people come in. We'll serve them coffee and tea and desserts and what have you. And if there's something they want, we'll set it aside for them, and they can come back and buy it on Monday. So
Creative.
it
What was I
creative.
talking about business
Yeah,
being
that's
creative?
Exactly right. So he's one of my heroes, just like you are.
Oh, thank you. So you branched off and created these module office.
Right.
But then why did Dailey's close?
Well, when I sold the company, the modular commercial end of it, and my dad's health was beginning to fail, and so I decided I'd go back and help as we were deciding what we were going to do with the company. And I think once he was gone, the heart of the business was gone to some extent. My dad, unfortunately, had Alzheimer's, and
Oh,
so
gosh.
as that was progressing, then I stepped in, and we just finally, the family, we said, let's just go ahead.
And nobody was passionate about it
No,
again.
and so we just liquidated, and that was it. So
Sure.
it's But we are still using the old building on Rock Street. We have loft apartments in there. It's called Rock Street Lofts. And
I know.
Yeah.
Rock Street Loft Apartments. It comes from your dad's, where Dailey's office.
That's exactly right.
Office supplies were. Yeah, I don't think a lot of people know that. This is a great place to take a break. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Mr. Jim Dailey, Director of Tourism for the state of Arkansas. We'll learn about places to vacation or visit in the natural state, and we'll hear some Arkansas folklore. We'll be right back after the break.
You're listening to Up in Your Business with Kerry McCoy, a production of flagandbanner.com. If you miss any part of this show or want to learn more about UIYB, go to flagandbanner.com and click on Radio Show. Be proactive and join our email list or like us on Facebook to get an early sneak peek of each week's guest.
You're listening to Up in Your Business with me, Kerry McCoy. I'm speaking today with Mr. Jim Dailey, past mayor of Little Rock and current director of tourism for the state of Arkansas. Before the break, we talked about Jim's daddy and the business, Dailey Office Supplies, and him selling the business and times changing, and that the fact that where his business was that big, is it yellow? Big yellow?
It was yellow.
What is it now?
It's now kind of a brick red.
It was yellow. See, I can
yeah.
really remember it. So anyway, I was going to say it's that big yellow building downtown, but it's not yellow anymore. It's a big red brick building called, what did you say it was called? What apartments?
Rock Street Lofts.
Rock Street Lofts is where the old Dailey Office Supplies was. But now we're going to talk about being the mayor. What crazy person wants to run for mayor? There are like 5 people running for mayor right now, and I just don't understand politicians. I don't know why anybody would want to be in that fishbowl, but tell me how you ended up running for mayor in 1993.
Well, so much goes back to my dad once again, because he always was involved in the community, business association. In fact, I just spoke to a club a couple days ago that he had been a member of, the Lions Club here in Little Rock. And so he had encouraged me, and in the 70s, when I was still a young whippersnapper, I thought about doing something like getting elected somewhere. So I thought about running for the state legislature, and a fellow who was our insurance agent for the company, the furniture company, Bud Baldwin, he said, well, I'm getting ready to step down from a position on city council. Why doesn't Jim run for that? So I did. Make the story short, I got elected. I spent 4 years on the city board and then stepped out. I didn't run again for 10 years. And then I'd always felt like we needed to have a directly elected mayor, and so I was continued to sort of push for that.
What do you mean directly elected?
Meaning that from probably about 1938 or 39, Little Rock was a pure city manager form of government.
Oh,
we
I
still
didn't
have
know
a city
that.
manager, but at that time, each of the city board members, city council members, were elected at large, and and then the mayor was chosen from the city council by the council.
Oh.
So in probably 1988 or 89, somewhere around there, we went through a community goal setting process. The community said we need to have a directly elected mayor. We need to have some ward representation. We changed our charter to do that. I was appointed for 2 years under the old system.
As mayor?
As mayor.
So you got a little taste of it.
Right. And then I ran and was elected for 3 4-year terms is what it amounted to. And then I thought I'd had enough. So.
Were you the first one to be directly elected?
Unless you want to go back into the beginning of the city's charter. I'm the longest serving mayor ever, even though I would say that from 1836, when we were founded, the state was 1836. Our charter, I'm trying to remember, was right about the same time. But all mayors up until probably 1958 or something like that were elected mayors by the public.
Then they became appointed.
And then they became appointed, and then went back to
being
directly
elected.
elected mayors, right.
So you're the first one in modern day.
Well, I'm the first one, in modern day. Mark Stodel is the second.
Mayors can be mayors forever, right?
Well, obviously, it depends on whether you want to, whether you live long enough, or the
But there's
public.
no term limit.
For the public, no, you're right, no term limit. And in Arkansas, mayors run nonpartisan, which, quite frankly, I love, because I had city council members that were ACORN members, very social, social advocates. I had people that were staunch right-wing thinking, and others that are on the left side. And yet we always worked for the best of the city.
Isn't that a lovely thought?
It is a nice thought.
A novel thought. So you were there for 14
years, right.
Why did you decide to quit?
Well, actually, after 10 years, I was starting to think, like everything, you have a passion for something, you feel like you're accomplishing a lot, you're working on things you want to accomplish. And I started thinking, maybe I won't run for another term. But we were in the midst of courting President Clinton to locate the library here in Little Rock. And he came to me one day, grabbed me by the lapel of my jacket and said, Mayor Dailey, I hear you're thinking about dropping out and not seeking re-election. And I said, well, thinking about it, Mr. President. And he said, I don't want another mayor there when we open that presidential library. And I said,
no pressure.
I said, yes, sir. So I ran then, and there were other things I felt like I wanted to do in my life. And the mayor's job, I tell you, is consuming. I mean, it's 24/7. You're on call. You have things every night that you
Every
have
night
to
you
do.
eat out at something.
I mean, every night there's 2, 3, 4 events of some sort. You may go for 5 minutes here, for 30 minutes there.
You got to have good shoes.
You do. The weekends are full with events and all of that. And there's a huge responsibility.
Because when do you get to work is what I always think is weird.
Well, you have to have a good staff. I mean, you really do.
Because you're really just a figurehead almost, running
you really
around,
are.
and
you
then
really
you
are.
come back.
You are working to establish policy direction and at the same time be the chief spokesperson. You got the bully pulpit, so you're there to do that. But quite frankly, without the 2,000 employees or without the, the 100, we had 2,000 employees at city government. Yeah, Little Rock, 2,000 plus.
Running 2,000 people would make me crazy.
Well, you got to have good people. I mean,
but you only spoke to how many at the top?
Oh, probably at the top 15 or 20, something like that.
Yeah, that's about all I can do.
Yeah, right, something like that. Same way at Parks and Tourism, and I know we'll talk about that later, but you have the same thing. I mean, we've got 1,500 employees over there in the total agency, and under tourism, probably 90 employees, but you deal with the main key individuals that run the ship.
So you were the mayor when Clinton made his announcement
I was.
from the Statehouse Convention Center. What was that like?
Probably gives me goosebumps still, and probably the two most memorable events of my time as mayor were A, when he was elected president, and B, when we, in 1997, opened the doors to Central High School, to the Little Rock 9, with the president there, the governor there, and myself there.
What year was that?
1997, the 40th year anniversary. And 5,000 people on the lawn, international publicity, and the president, the governor, and the mayor there opening the door that had been turned or closed to those 9 African Americans back in 1957. And when we opened that door that day, with 3 of us are standing there, and they're walking in, several of them with tears in their eyes, you just know that this has touched them, and certainly it touched the world.
Touches me just thinking about it.
I know. It still gives me goosebumps. That's what I say with the president getting elected.
You're about to cry.
I know. It's still.
People cry on the show all the time, don't they, Jesse?
Yeah.
I know. They make me cry. A couple weeks ago, I cried. I'm about to cry over that, too, thinking about it. I bet that was unbelievable when the door opened.
It really was.
What about in the old State House when they were all up at I think I said convention center, but it was the old State House?
Yeah, it was the old State House. Yeah, and as I recall, that night was one of the coldest nights probably ever on that night in Little Rock. And everyone was freezing. And at the same time, there was the warmth of what was going on. And I mean, it was just an exciting time. And that, and also the opening of the Presidential Library. I mean, all these huge events that put Little Rock and Arkansas on the map in a positive way.
What's your favorite thing about being the mayor?
Dealing with the people. I mean,
please.
I'm serious.
People say that all the time.
No, but it is. It really is. I mean,
people drive me crazy.
But let me tell you. I mean, I was flying in one night from someplace, and I was sitting on the aisle, 2 seats. There was a young lady, probably 18 or something, sitting next to me, and she said, "What do you do?" And I said, "Well, I'm the mayor." And she said, "Oh, okay." And so we're flying on a little. We began to land, coming into Little Rock. You see the lights, and she looked over at me and she said, "I bet it's pretty cool to look out there and know that you're the mayor over all of that."
Oh.
And I said, "You're right. It is."
That is cool.
So it is pretty cool to be mayor. I mean, no doubt about it. I mean, that, and I think sometimes even now today, I mean, people, they still call me mayor, and I love it because to me, regardless how much I love being tourism director, the mayor is probably the most significant title that, other than being husband and father, that I could possibly have. And so, but I love the fact that I was mayor.
Well, once you're a mayor, isn't it like once you're a president, you're a mayor forever?
Yeah, and I also kid about it, though, sometimes, and people still call me mayor, and I say, you've forgotten my first name, haven't you?
Mm-hmm.
It's just
that's true.
Just Mayor Dailey.
Oh, there's Mayor. Hi, Mayor.
That's right.
What probably was the most challenging and something that you did not expect when you were the mayor, that you were like, wow?
There are probably a number of things, but the thing that hit us so hard was in 1992, 93, 94, that era in there when we had all the young
gangs.
The gangs, the crime and the killings, 77 homicides in 1 year, HBO special that was causing conventions to council coming to Little Rock, people to question anybody's sanity to think about moving or coming to Little Rock. And to me, that was one of the most devastating moments. And that was early in my mayoral career. And I remember that day sitting there in my office and like the 47th or 36th or whatever it was that had been killed. I don't remember the tragedy of what number it was, but I was sitting there thinking, God, what can I do as mayor? And I knew we need to beef up police. We need to do this, that, and the other. But one thing this is probably the first time I've ever publicly stated it, but I started a little program where I would go out and visit the families of each homicide. And over a period of about 3 years, probably visited 125, 140 families. The media played along with me and did not attend. I didn't want them there. This was just a personal thing in order to get a sense of connection to people that were hurting, to see how we could do something to help, and at the same time, to learn in ways that might be meaningful to what we were trying to do to deal with the crime, but also with the social unfairness in many ways in these neighborhoods.
Oh, just to get it from the horse's mouth.
You
just
do.
Go there and find out exactly.
And I still every now and then I'll run into someone who'll stop me and say, "Aren't you Mayor Dailey?" And I said, "Yes." And they'll say, "I'll never forget you because you came to my home after I lost my son." Something like that.
And just so needlessly so much.
Oh.
I was in Las Vegas checking in, and the guy said, "Oh, you're from Little Rock." I've been to Little Rock. I said, "Oh, it's a nice city." He said, "No, I won't ever go back." I checked in, walked down the main street, got a gun pulled on me, and they stole my wallet. And I went, "Oh my gosh, you're right. It was the wild, wild west."
Yeah, it was. And unfortunately, we're never going to get rid of all the crime. We're never going to get rid of all the things we would love to.
What is the answer to all that?
To me, so much of it is just understanding it and making connections to people and not just trying to come up with quick and easy answers. Because you can build more jails, you can lock more people up, you can hire more police officers. You can
blame the police, but it's crime on crime. It's each other on each other.
Yeah. So I don't know the answer.
I don't either.
It's a combination of things, but it takes a community to come together. And one of the things we did to reduce crime back at that time, fortunately, we had a study and a grant that came from the Robert Woods Johnson Foundation and the Casey Foundation that gave us a program to establish neighborhood alert centers in various parts of the older parts of the city.
Did that help?
It did, because not only did you have a police presence there, that community policing, but you also had a neighborhood advocate and a codes enforcement team member that worked with people in the neighborhood to identify the problems, the issues, do what you can do to help, and it really made a difference.
I think we need to quit glorifying gangsters.
I agree with that.
I mean, that seems like a pretty simple way to stop it. It's like,
you hate it. I mean, you see something that you have to believe the only reason they did it, whether it's a school shooting, mass shooting, you name it, it almost seems like they want it for their name to be in in print, and then it also becomes an example to somebody else that says, "Oh, I can go do that.
I can get popular and get recognition." Yeah, they really did kind of glorify the gangster, the heads of the gangs, I think. You did the expansion of the Statehouse Convention Center, the building of you were there with the Verizon Arena.
That was kind of a joint project.
Yeah,
because
that was in North Little Rock, actually.
It was Little Rock. In fact, I was blessed to be at a time when there were three of us that were friends that worked well together. Mayor Hayes in North Little Rock, Judge Valines at the county, and myself. And each year at the beginning of the year, we would sit down, we'd go to Hot Springs or someplace, spend the weekend, and say, what are we going to be working on this year?
Excellent.
What can we do together?
Did they still do that?
I don't know. I really don't. But things like the building of the convention center, the river project, Verizon Arena, riverfront development, so many things came as a result of leadership sitting down, putting their egos aside as much as they can, and then moving forward with things that are good for the total community.
That's exactly what Steve Clark said when he was here, and he was talking about, he's the head of the chamber in Fayetteville, and he said every year all 5 of those communities up there, Rogers, Springdale, Bentonville, Fayetteville, and one other, get together and they make a plan for the area, because what's good for one is good for the other.
Well, when people look at us from the outside, they don't look at that little river that divides us from North Little Rock to Little Rock. It's really about what's the community about. And so I'm proud right now, as we all should be, and I think we are, that North Little Rock is doing some great things over there in Argenta, and that restaurants and building new facilities that are going to make that even more of a...
I have to tell you, though, the river rail, it drives me crazy.
Really?
Driving on it.
Yeah.
Has it been a success?
There's 2 ways to measure, so I'll be real political about that and tell you that in numbers, I don't think it's been a success.
Yeah.
In terms of what it has added to the community and probably this sort of image, I think it's been very successful.
Well, I think this is what I heard, and I said, why in the world would we spend so much money on putting in the river rail when the river market was already starting to boom, and there were a lot of motorcyclists that came down there, and they were going to quit coming down there if we put it in because it's detrimental.
Because of the track.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I can't remember who it was. It may have been Mayor Stodola said that the city was given 80% funding from the federal government to put in transit, mass transit. Is that true?
It is true. In fact, I have to...
And that's why we did it.
Well, it's not why we did it. It's probably... only because of that would we have considered doing something that probably was not going to be economically the business choice to give you a return on the investment in dollars. But I can remember when Buddy and Pat and I sat down at that time, and I kid about this. I said it's one of the best negotiating deals I guess I've ever been part of, because federal government's going to give us 80%, so we have to come up with 20%. So we agreed there in a meeting that each of us would divide it a third, a third, and a third. So
out of your pocket.
That's right. So 7.5% or 7 1/3 or whatever, 7 2/3 would be paid for
by the county, by the North Little Rock,
by the city. Now after that, if there was extensions that went more North Little Rock or Little Rock, they would be paid for a greater percentage by that community. But I'm still supportive of it. I think it adds something that I think
the kids like to ride on it.
Well, and long term, we're not there in this community yet, but long term, it sets the stage for maybe it's transit to the airport, or maybe it's other transit opportunities in the future.
I've heard that too. All right, this is another great place to take a break. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Mr. Jim Dailey, Director of Tourism for the state of Arkansas. We'll learn about places to vacation or day trip in the natural state. And if we have time, we're going to get the inside scoop on current and future affairs of Arkansas. And in this next segment, we'll be taking calls, so get your question ready. Jesse will give you the number right after the break. But first, I want to remind everyone we're broadcasting live every Friday afternoon at 2 p.m. Central Time on both KABF 88.3 FM, the voice of the people, and flagandbanner.com's Facebook page. And that after 1 week of every show's airing, a podcast is made available on all popular listening sites and YouTube. We'll talk more after the break.
Arkansas Flag and Banner is proud to underwrite Up in Your Business with Kerry McCoy. McCoy began this broadcast with the intention of offering a mentoring platform for those with an entrepreneurial spirit. Through candid conversations and interesting interviews with business and community-minded Arkansans, listeners gain insight into starting and running a business, the ups and downs of risk-taking, and the commonalities of successful people. Kerry McCoy, founder and president of Arkansas Flag and Banner, believes in paying knowledge and experience forward and developed this radio show as a means of doing so. The biographies, life experiences, and wisdom of her guests would likely go unheard if not for this venue. Rarely do people open up for an hour to an audience about their life mistakes, triumphs, and pitfalls. This unique radio show allows the listener intimate access into the stories of prominent leaders in our state. I'm Adrienne McNally, manager of the Arkansas Flag and Banner Showroom and Gift Shop, located on the first floor of the historic DeBoerian Hall on the corner of 9th and State Streets in downtown Little Rock, Arkansas. In business for 43 years, we offer an old-school shopping experience with front door parking, clerks to help you, and department store variety. Open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5:30, and Saturday, 10 to 4.
You're listening to Up in Your Business with me, Kerry McCoy, and I'm speaking today with Mr. Jim Dailey, past mayor of Little Rock and current director of tourism for the state of Arkansas. If you've got a question, make a comment on flagandbanner.com's Facebook page or write this number down and call.
501-433-0088.
Say it again, Jesse.
501-433-0088.
And if you're shy, you can just creep on my weekly blog about life as a small business owner at flagandbanner.com. Or, as I said earlier, you can listen to our podcast. There's 100 of them almost in there.
There is.
It's crazy. Before the break, this last break, the first break, we talked about your dad as daily office supply and how awesome that is. And then the second break, and then we came back and we talked about being the mayor and how you were the first elected mayor in 50 years or about, which I didn't know that prior to you being elected, we appointed mayors. And we talked about some of the things you loved about being the mayor. You had some great memories, but you've decided to leave. You stayed per President Clinton's request at all the way as mayor through the opening of the Clinton Library, and you've now decided to leave?
Well, I did at that time after I finished that term. Then I thought, I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do. That's when I was visiting with my brother-in-law, Hank Kelley, over Flake and Kelley, and he said, "Hey, Jim," he said, "I've got an office for you over here if you want to come over here, hang out, get your license. We've got a place for you." And so I did. I became a partner in the firm. I did that for 10, going on actually 11 years. And in the midst,
a long time.
Yeah, I did, because that was from 2007 to just last year, 17.
You were a commercial real estate agent for Flake and Kelley.
And did consulting work with cities, retail business development with cities. And so it was kind of an extension of some of what I was doing as mayor.
Yeah.
In fact, I'll tell you in a minute about some of the things I'm doing to keep that connection going with mayors, even as the tourism office. But when I went into the commercial business, thank God Hank gave me a place to hang out, and I was blessed to learn a little bit, made a few dollars, and made a lot of friends.
And 7 months ago, you decided to take this new appointment.
Actually, it was probably the decision was made. The governor appointed me back in August, I guess it was, of 2017. And I was on the Parks and Tourism Commission, as you had mentioned. Mm-hmm. I was chairman of the commission, and we knew, just to give you a little bit of history, the Department of Parks and Tourism was run for 30 some odd years by Richard Davies as the director, Joe David Rice as tourism director, and Greg Butts as parks director. So each of those now has retired within a period of about 3 years. Kane Webb is now the executive director, replacing Richard Davies. I'm the tourism director, replacing Joe David, although I committed only to 2 years on this, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. Mm-hmm. And also then Grady Spann is our parks director. So we have a great team, but we're really in kind of a transition. And I was on the commission, and was chairman of a committee. We were actually going to make some recommendations to the governor for the replacement of Joe David Rice. And in this committee, my name kept coming up, and I kept saying, I'm too old, I'm ready to slow down, all this sort of stuff. Finally, Kane Webb cornered me one day. We were up at Crystal Bridges, I'll never forget, and I'm about to walk out, and he said, "Can I talk to you?" And he said, "Would you do it?" And I said, "Kane, I'm too old, you need somebody younger." And he said, "No, seriously, you'd be great." And I said, "No, I just don't think so." He said, "Well, think about it." And finally, after a few days of thinking about it, I said, "Okay, here's the deal. If the governor wants me to do it, I'll do it. But I'll commit only for 2 years. Now, if I have to stay longer because we're still getting things in shape, okay. But my goal is to do several things. We're in a transition, help come up with that next tourism director that's a young person. Secondly, we're in the transition of our new contract to roll out our new website, arkansas.com, which is a huge deal. Yeah, and I want to see I want to see that through. And then thirdly, I just believe that there's some things we can do to get our staff and organization tidied up, if you want to call it that. So
good, clean goals.
Yeah. So I'm working on those things. I've got some great people working for and with me. And I'm blessed that
I already know what's going to happen. At the end of 2 years, you're going to have something still dangling, and they're going to say, somebody's going to come to you and grab you by the lapels and say, Jim, just stay till we finish the website or whatever it is.
I don't know. Because I remember going home and telling Patti, I said, I'm thinking about this. I told Kane, if the governor wants me to do it, I'll do it. And so we're out to dinner. And
Patty's like, no.
Yeah, and I get this text, and again, it's just Kane says, he wants you to do it. And
Patty's like, bring me another glass of wine.
That's right. So anyway, I was appointed back officially back in August, and Joe David and I did some things together around the state just to make that transition. And of course, he's the iconic tourism director that was recognized nationally.
Is he the funny guy?
International. He is really humorous. We have a lot of his stories.
Oh, he's hilarious.
Yeah, he's got a book coming out in probably September that's about quirky places in Arkansas. And all
he's
that.
He's
so
good.
he's a guy you really ought to have on.
Oh,
to
I
talk
should.
about
What's
those
his
things.
name?
Joe David Rice.
Oh, he is so funny.
Yeah, he would be a hoot to have on here with you, and so
he'd be fun to have too. All right, let's talk about the places to visit.
Okay.
And there are so many places. When my kids were young, I had a nanny who was going to visit every park one summer with my children that was in driving distance.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a great goal
It is.
to have. It's like every park within driving distance of where you live on a one-day trip, you should try to visit. And I have never yet been to every park in Arkansas yet. How many are there? Do you know?
52 state parks, one a week.
One a week.
and you got it made. And if you do that, then we'll probably give you some sort of plaque or something.
I'll be the first person, probably.
That's so.
That would be a great contest.
Well, I mean, and actually, there are people that make that part of their goal, and on the commission as well as individuals. And
You should start a contest like that, and they have to bring something from there. What's those things where you have to go? You have to
geotags.
You should do geotags at every state parks, and the first person to get all the geotags gets a flag from Arkansas Flag and Banner.
That's really a pretty good idea.
Thank you.
But what you're talking about, though, when we say what's there to visit or do in Arkansas, they're the iconic places like the Presidential Library and Crystal Bridges and
Devil's Den.
Yeah, Devil's Den. But the parks themselves, the 52 state parks, the signature parks, Devil's Den, Magazine, Wilhelmina, Petit Jean.
Where's the one you dig for diamonds? What's that called?
That's a Crater of Diamonds.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's no place you can do that in the world, I don't think.
That's right.
It's the only place in the world.
And keep your diamond.
And keep your diamond.
And there's probably an average of over 30 diamonds a month found and kept by people at Crater of Diamonds.
No way.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, most of them are small, obviously.
Do they have showers there when you get finished? You can go take a shower. I'm serious.
They have a water park there, so
you just go.
I guess you could go jump in the water park if you want to. But they have the sluicing ponds that are sheltered, so you can get in and out of the sun and go dig up some dirt. You can actually take back a bucket of dirt with you if you want to take it home with you, or the gravel. Actually, you have to wash it and then leave the dirt there. But take back.
And then there's caves all over the place.
Caves all over the place.
I actually saw one for sale a couple years ago.
And one of the places some people don't know about or don't think much about when I ask the question when I'm speaking is Old Washington State Park, which is down toward Texarkana near Hope. Was the Civil War capital of Arkansas, and when you drive that 8 miles off Interstate 30, and you go down the little 2-lane road, and all of a sudden you arrive and you look around and go, oh my gosh, this could be Williamsburg.
Really?
It is really cool. There's a restaurant there, interesting, interpretive people that dress up in the outfits of the house that person lived in back in the 1800s. They tell the story. It's a fascinating place to visit. So
did you know about that before you became the state parks tourism guy? I
actually knew about it, but had never been there until I got on the commission. So when I was on the commission, I thought one day when I was down in Texarkana, I said, man, I got to go see this
Have you
place.
been to all 52 state parks?
I've been to
Don't lie.
40. I know, I've been to 48. Yeah.
Just got 4 more to go?
4 more to go. That's right. So,
what are the last 4? You remember? Okay, now I'm
can't
going to
even
put you on the
remember
spot. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're
all
right.
right, canoeing.
Canoeing is great.
Buffalo State Park.
Buffalo
right there.
State Park, Buffalo National Park.
Yeah,
that's
right, National Park.
So it's not under our purview, but it's one of the greatest assets that we have in Arkansas.
Hot Springs National Park.
Hot Springs National Park.
I mean, that's pretty crazy.
Where you've got Lake Washita State Park. You've got the other one over there too, Lake Catherine State Park. Beautiful lakes. I mean, our rivers and lakes that we have in Arkansas are incomparable.
Water is going to become the next oil.
I
and
agree
we are
it
going to
is.
be
Yeah,
rich.
I agree. The other thing's going on in Arkansas that, of course, is the growth in some communities of activities like mountain biking. Up in the northwestern part of the state, in addition to Crystal Bridges, you've also got those young Walton grandsons up there that are, they have made it their plan that Arkansas is going to be the mountain biking capital of the nation.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. I mean, last year, 2017, they did an economic impact study, and I want to talk a little bit about that for the state. They did an economic impact study that said that cycling had a $187 million impact on Northwest Arkansas in 2017. I mean, you have shops that are starting up, brew pubs along the routes. I mean, it's just growing. And they're putting money into other places, too. They're putting money into some of our parks, like Hobbs State Park up near Rogers and Urick Springs, for bike trails. We're embracing more bike trails in our state parks, and it's becoming one of the hottest things going.
My youngest son just moved to Columbus, Ohio, and I think that's the biggest state school in America, and they bike so much there that they have stop lights on the bike paths.
Huh.
Yeah, right next to the cars.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah.
That's how big biking is. I think you're so right. So you've got 5 minutes. Give me your spiel.
Right,
He's making notes over here.
You know, that I actually have a 2017 economic impact study for the state of Arkansas.
Let me tell everybody, hold it. You're listening to Jim Dailey, he's the director for the Department of Tourism for Arkansas. Did I say that right?
You did.
Okay, good. So I just want everybody
Tourism represents nearly $8 billion of economic impact upon the state of Arkansas.
How much?
$8 billion, nearly $8 billion.
Who knew?
It's the second largest industry in the state after agriculture.
Who knew that?
I mean, they don't, unless you just state it. And of course, I'll leave this with you, but there are numbers for each of the counties, for the different regions, the impact in terms of jobs, sales tax that comes back to us. I mean, it is a net plus to us. Tourism means something without putting a lot into it. It's a net plus to us because when tourists come here, they spend money. And we're focusing now on a lot of things like the U.S. Civil Rights Trail, international travel, and it's just going to continue.
International travel?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, it's the United States is obviously a huge market for international travel. People come from all over the world.
But to Little Rock, you can't even fly here.
Well, actually, sure you can.
I mean, you can, but
come on.
Oh yeah, I forgot you're on the commission.
I was on the commission, and you're only one stop away from any place in the world. So
I like those
give me a break.
I like those nonstop flights. All right, go ahead.
I do too. But anyway, tourism, international tourism is really growing. And we're focused because the governor's done a lot with China on economic development and bringing industries here. So we're focused and have contracted with someone to help us to bring more tourists from China. We're also the UK and Australia. And interestingly, one of the things we're doing is we partner with 11 other states that are in the South. It's called Tourism
Sisters?
South.
Oh.
Other states. And we market together to get them to come to the South. And one of the big, I guess I'll say, interest right now in countries all over the world is a civil rights struggle and racism in America. And the U.S. Civil Rights Trail, which Central High is one of the top 10 that represents the civil rights struggle. We already have huge visitor numbers from out of the country, but we're focusing on that as an increased part of our domain.
From this radio show, I have learned that the world is fascinated by the South.
Yeah.
That we are a culture that fascinates people. I had no idea.
It was the museums, the African American history, the Native American history, the places like Johnny Cash Home and Dice Community. I mean, all these. I mean, it's people are fascinated with that and come from all over.
They are. That's what Work Saban was saying. That what, Jesse? Are you about to say something?
It's really the heartbeat of American culture.
It is
all music, all art.
Yeah,
I mean, we rule the Delta and this area of the United States. I've been saying it for years. We rule.
I don't know. I thought it was the colonies that ruled.
Well, thank you for reminding me because music heritage is a huge part of what we have to offer to people from all over the world. It sure is.
You can do rappelling. We've got rappelling here.
Oh, yeah.
We've got horseback riding.
You've been doing your homework.
I've done all this. I just think about all the stuff I've done. When my kids were young, and my husband is an avid hunter and fisher.
Yeah.
What is going to happen with the water in the White River? Do you know?
Or the Buffalo or the White River?
The White River. They're thinking about, everybody hunts for ducks down around the White River, and the farmers want to drain it, and the hunters want to leave it. So I guess that's out of your area of expertise.
Yeah, it is, and I'm not sure I'm up to speed. I mean, I have followed the Buffalo River.
Well,
and the concerns of
there's a lot of tourism
there,
down there for the people that did the duck hunting.
Well,
and
I mentioned Batesville earlier, and it's right there on the White River, and that's one of the assets that Batesville has to offer. My former hometown.
Not.
Right.
So the Ouachita Mountains are also interesting about Arkansas. Is the Ouachita Mountains, I think, are the only mountains that run... is it east to west?
Well, the one thing I know about them, I'm not sure, I think it is east to west, but the one thing I do know about the Ouachitas is that it's probably the only what I'll call true mountains in Arkansas because they were created by geologic uplifting, whereas the other mountains in Arkansas are dissected plateaus that are flat on top. So the Ouachitas have that true mountain.
And they kind of cuts to the center of the state, which makes a very diverse state parks. And I'm not sure how you speak to that, because you can go to the Delta where it's flat, and then you can go to the mountains.
We have a lot of diversity.
So much diversity. Do most states have 52 parks?
There are some, California and maybe Texas and Colorado, that may have as many or more, but most don't have that many.
Do you want casinos?
Boy, you really hit me square between the eyes, aren't you?
Just go ahead and say it. We've got casinos. We got legalized pot. Are those going to help or not help?
I think they'll probably add to our economy. There are other issues I won't even try to get into, but Eric Jackson down at Oakland is on our commission, and certainly we know the value from an economic standpoint of casino and horse racing gaming in Arkansas. So I'm not sure what's going to happen on this election, but it's. I guess it's up to the public. I never did want casinos in Little Rock because we were already working on things. But we also were working on things in the downtown with the river market and all of that. And I felt like it would just totally change the complexion of the city if you came in and started doing casino gaming in the city. Hot Springs as a national park and always a recreation and some history of that, I think it makes sense there. But it totally changes a community. And what we have going now in Little Rock is based on authenticity in our history rather than upon the glitz of gaming.
Yeah, I bet Hot Springs wouldn't mind, although I don't know if the owners of Oakland would like to have a bunch of competition down there. They've kind of got it sealed up down there. What about the 10-lane highway that everybody is talking about, that they're thinking about doing to the I-30 bridge in downtown Little Rock? I know that maybe it'll move traffic better, but doesn't that seem like the opposite of what all urban development's going on right now for downtowns?
In general, I'd say you're right. I mean, I think that, the highway department has a philosophy that says if you mess it up with too much traffic, we'll fix it. And that's what they're obviously trying to do. And I don't know if we have the right plan. Quite frankly, I've tried to be a little bit distanced from that. But I do think there's some things I've seen that were attractive to me, where the interstate comes right into downtown there at 2nd or 3rd or whatever. If that could turn into more of a green area, that would be a plus. I don't know whether we need 10 lanes, 6 lanes or what, but I know that highway has like 100,000 plus a day vehicles. So it's like, 30 million vehicles a year that travel that route.
Big trucks aren't allowed to drive on I-630. They have to go around.
That's right.
So why can't they do that to I-30? Why can't they make them go around the city? That would take so much traffic off, and then we wouldn't maybe have to do it.
Yeah, we would need another couple of hours to discuss this topic.
Let me give you my gift for you today. That was good. Wasn't that nice? Did you see how politically he cut me off? He's so good at that. You're so diplomatic, just like your dad. All right, look, you get a flag desk. Do you have a desk set for your?
I do not. This will be on my desk back in the office.
So it's a 4x6-inch desk set of the U.S. and the Arkansas flag.
Do I have time for me to mention one other thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm calling at least 5 mayors a day, and we have 501 cities in Arkansas. And I'm trying to find those unique things that would be of interest that we need to help promote. And also just making a personal connection.
Just like going to visit all those people whose sons and daughters were shot.
I'm a connector.
You really do like people. You said that.
I do.
You really, really
I
do.
like you too.
You're so nice to me. You said that too. Thank you very much. Jesse, who's our guest next week?
Connie Falls, proprietor of the Clinton Museum store on the first floor of the Clinton Library.
That's old Connie Fails. Did I say Falls? Did I type Falls?
It says Fells,
Oh,
clearly.
okay. We're going to get you some glasses.
Might be about time.
She's a designer. I've known her for years. She designed clothes for Hillary Rodham Clinton when she was the First Lady of Arkansas. She went up and had a show in Washington, D.C. when the Clintons first went up there, a fashion show. I went to that with her. But she owned her own store here for a long time, but now she's, like you said, she's at the Clinton Library doing the Clinton store. But the cool thing that I want her to come on and talk about is she spearheads this Curbside Couture event, which is a design competition featuring fashions made of recycled materials produced by 3rd through 12th graders. It's a competition for 3rd through 12th grade fashion designers out of recycled materials. I love that. If you have a great entrepreneurial story you would like to share, I'd love to hear from you. Send a brief bio or your contact info to questions, that's questions with an S, at upyourbusiness.org. And finally, to our listeners, thank you for spending time with me. If you think this program's been about you, you're right, but it's also been for me. Thank you for letting me fulfill my destiny. My hope today is that you've heard or learned something that's been inspiring or enlightening, and that whatever it is, will help you up your business, your independence, or your life. I'm Kerry McCoy, and I'll see you next time on Up in Your Business. Until then, be brave and keep it up.
You've been listening to Up in Your Business with Kerry McCoy, a production of flagandbanner.com. If you miss any part of the show or want to learn more about UIYB, go to flagandbanner.com and click on Radio Show. Like us on Facebook or subscribe to her weekly podcast wherever you like to listen. All interviews are recorded and posted the following week with links to resources you heard discussed on today's show. Underwriting opportunities available upon request. Kerry's goal is to help you live the American dream.